So in life, we have all heard the saying, be careful what you wish for. And that idiom was the first thing that came to my mind when I thought of the situation going on in Portland between Dame and the Trailblazers. And what I mean by that is this. Dame is a big fish in a small pond that is Portland. There was never big expectations on what Dame was going to do with the Trailblazers. Nobody ever thought he was going to lead them to a championship. When he would get swept by the Warriors in the playoffs or get bounced out in the first or second round, it was fine. It was never a biggie because all he had was CJ. All he had was role players, and he was exceeding expectations. He was putting on a show. He was shooting three-pointers. He was getting compared to Stephen Curry and Kyrie Irving as the best lead guard in the association. And that was enough to keep the Portland fans happy and to keep business booming, per se. But Dame was convinced that he needed more in his NBA career, that he needed an NBA championship. And he went on a limb and said that he doesn't have enough help. So Portland responded by calling his bluff. They traded CJ McCollum. They've opened up cap space. They've got a bunch of first-round picks. And they're going to be making moves during the offseason. Woj already announced that Portland plans to build around Damian Lillard, and that's what they're going to do. They got enough space to add two guys, and let me just say this. I would not be surprised at the least if the Celtics get bounced out in the first round, maybe the 76ers play the Celtics in a 3-6 matchup, or the Cavs beat the Celtics in a 4-5 matchup, and the Celtics just decide to blow up the Tatum and Jaylen Brown experiment. Now you have Anthony Simmons in Portland, who's a very good young point guard. He looks like one of those young guys who's going to ascend into the group of guards who are playing at a high level in the NBA, like Darius Garland did this season. Anthony Simmons can ball. He's averaging 17 and 7, and he can shoot the three ball. And at 6'5", he can play the 1 or the 2 for you. And the Celtics haven't really had great point guard play ever since Kyrie Irving left. The Kemba Walker experiment was a fail. The Dennis Schroeder experiment has been a fail. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jaylen Brown got sent to Portland in exchange for Anthony Simons, as well as Josh Hart and maybe a first-round pick. Now, pairing Damian Lillard and Jaylen Brown in the backcourt would be very interesting. And Portland would still have enough cap space that they could make another move. They could go for a Jeremy Grant in free agency. Now, if you're Damian Lillard and you have Jaylen Brown to your right and Jeremy Grant to your left and you have Yusuf at center and they can sign a 3-and-D guy like a Patrick Beverley or a Torrey Craig, just somebody who can hit an open corner three and play some defense for you, that is a very good starting lineup. That is a starting lineup that if you take Damian Lillard out and you put any NBA superstar in, that team is going to succeed. So that puts the pressure on Dame. He's no longer going to be the big fish in the small pond. He's no longer going to be the front runner who Vegas odds have him losing every series that he's heading into, and he gets to prove people wrong or have upsets and no expectations, and he gets to hunt. If he gets Jaylen Brown and Jeremy Grant, he's going to be the hunted. People are going to be saying, all right, Dame, show us. And then he's going to have to do a good job of distributing the ball and getting both of them involved. He's going to have to do a good job of he's going to have to at least play reasonable defense because there's so many different analytics and stats that can show you that Damian Lillard is one of the worst defenders in the NBA. I believe NBA math with TPA, total points added, they add up the points on offense and defense. This season in games that Dame played in, he was by far the worst defender in the NBA. And the eye test can tell you that as well. When I watch games and I see Dame on the defensive side of the ball, he's just putting forth no effort. And look, none of these guards can really guard each other in the modern NBA when there's no hand checking and these guys have freedom of motion and they can shoot from as far as they can shoot with all their speed and athleticism. But Dame doesn't even put forth an effort to ever contest shots. When Dame goes against his matchup, it's about who's going to score more. And to win his matchup, he has to get more buckets than the other guy, which he does so for the most part. But there's going to be a lot of pressure added to Dame, a different kind of pressure. He's never had this pressure before. It's easy to hit clutch shots when people were expecting you to lose the game. But when you're down in a game that people thought you were going to win, now you have to step up and take care of business or else you're going to be the guy to blame. The fingers are going to get pointed towards you. And they like to bring people up in this society just to tear them down. And they've been bringing Dame up. And I believe getting these pieces around Dame is going to set him up so high. And people are going to have such high expectations for Portland that if he doesn't deliver, they're going to tear him down just like they do to everybody else. And I would hate to see that. So I hope this brother knows what he wished for. I hope he knows what he's getting himself into. He has this interview with Draymond Green on the Volume. I'm going to let them talk about it, and I'll chime in.
That y'all made and trading away Norman Powell and Robert Covington. Yeah. And then, of course, obviously trading CJ away. And I know I spoke to you.
When Portland was making these trades, people were wondering, like, what is Portland thinking? They're making bad move after bad move. I knew right away that they were making these moves to free up space to get like a Bradley Beal or a Jaylen Brown or somebody who, if something doesn't pan out this season, they might not be on their team anymore, like a Julius Randle or a Donovan Mitchell. Guys who might get upset and frustrated with their team, guys that might need a new scenery. I knew that was the case. I knew that Portland wasn't going to get rid of Dame. I knew that they were going to try to build around him because Dame is what sells tickets in Portland. This is a business at the end of the day. Dame is the entertainment, and Dame says, as the entertainer and as the guy who brings people to the seats, Dame is saying, I need pieces around me to win games. So Portland went ahead, and they're in the process of doing so. So that did not surprise me.
About this before, just you and CJ. And I remember you telling me, like, no, me and CJ talk all the time. Like, we know at some point this is going to happen. It's kind of just a matter of when it does happen. Obviously,
it was long overdue, to be honest. Dame now has suffered an injury, and he's sitting out for the rest of the season. He didn't look right during the games that he was playing. It should have been done earlier because Dame had great seasons the past few years, and they could have took advantage of his prime. Now, I'm not saying he's out of his prime, but they could have got him in that sweet spot. They could have got help around him when Dame was in that sweet spot, opposed to now hoping that he's still going to be playing at a peak level in his 30s coming off an injury.
It's happened now. How did you feel about the move? How you feel about what it was for CJ and him going to New Orleans and the type of situation it is for him, but then also what y'all got back and where that leaves y'all going forward?
I mean, conversation going back, 3-4 years, where it's like, I remember when we lost to New Orleans in the playoffs, it was like, man, I don't know what's going to happen at this point. We just.
And people don't talk about that. The Trailblazers lost to the Anthony Davis Pelicans. They got swept by them in the first round. Drew Holiday had Damian Lillard locked up. I mean, like, people just do not talk about that. That's why I have a little hesitancy when it comes to Damian Lillard with expectations on him, because he was a 3 seed and he was supposed to knock the Pelicans out and move on to the next round, and they fell short. Him and CJ both fell short, but especially Dame. Dame had a terrible, terrible series. CJ actually put up okay numbers. It was Dame who was terrible in that first round series against the Pelicans. So I have a little bit of concerns when Dame is the focal point and you're focusing in on stopping Dame and he has expectations on him and he's actually expected to win a championship. I have a little bit of concerns if he can actually do that.
Got swept as a 3 seed. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, but we knew it was a possibility.
And that was when the trade should have occurred. They should have blew that team up back then. That was a disservice to both CJ and Dame by keeping them around together.
I think at that point we started to line our contracts up to where we was basically on the same time. Where like, all right, if something gonna happen, you know what I mean? Like, we was already aware of what the possibilities could be, and I think that's what being solid and really being partners is about. Where it's like, we know that this is a possibility. Like, I'm never gonna hang him out there, and I'm never gonna know something and not go to him like, look, bro, I think something might go down or whatever. So like 2 days before it happened, we talked on the phone for an hour.
So Dame is saying that he got CJ McCollum traded, but he let CJ know that this was going down. Portland, the people in Portland's front office went up to Dame and they said, hey, we're going to trade CJ. We're going to move on. We're going to try to get you some pieces. This is the deal. And Dame said, all right. And then Dame went to CJ and gave CJ a heads up that this would be occurring. And CJ and Dame, because they've had conversations before, and to both their credit, they were open and honest with each other, They knew that this wasn't working out the way that it should have. They knew that this was running its course. And CJ knew what time it was. He knew Dame wasn't going to veto the trade or tell them to stop and to keep CJ. He knew that, hey, and Dame's going to allude to this later in the interview. Dame wouldn't want to be there if it was just up to CJ saying, hey, keep me here. And Dame's basically alluding to the fact that, why have CJ around if it's just because I'm saying it? If they don't want him around, if it's not working to win, if CJ's only here because I said that he's here, let's just move on from the experiment.
Just talking about it, so you never, if it was going to be something where I was going to be moved and, CJ knew about it, I would never want him to be like, I would never want him to tell them, like, no, I don't do this. I would want to be there on the strength of them wanting me to be there as opposed to me being there on the strength of somebody making them make me be there. So, and I know.
That's very revealing because Dame went out and said he doesn't have enough help. So you go out there and you say you don't have enough help. The front office goes, okay, we'll trade CJ to free up space to get you more help. And then Dame goes, yeah, I wouldn't want to be anywhere if I was only there because somebody else said I should stay here. Because they want me there, essentially. So essentially, Dame's saying he got CJ traded. Am I missing something here? If it sounds like Dame's saying he got CJ traded in the nicest way possible, in a way that he communicated it with CJ and like it's all good or whatever, and that it's just a business and that it was time to split and time to move on. But it sounds like Dame knew what was up. He let CJ know what was up, and they both said, all right, we'll go ahead with this.
You feel the same way, so you get to a point where maybe something run its course, and you gotta rewrite.
And that's totally fine. And to be honest, you brothers were a little late on reading that. It had ran its course a while ago, but hey, better late than never. You both still have some good years left in your playing career, so you can both potentially make something happen. Add a championship to your resume. I know Portland's going to try to do so for you. It appears like the Pelicans are up to something. They're trying to build a roster over there, so we'll see. We'll see.
Ground yourself and try to figure out what's the best thing, what's the best angle to take at this point, and that's where it had reached. And he went into a great basketball situation, with B.I. and Zion and Valanciunas, and also people don't realize how good CJ really is. I think that's another thing. It's like they don't realize that how nice he really is. So,
the Pelicans had been saying for a while that they wanted C.J. McCollum. They wanted a veteran guard. They had been chasing after Chris Paul and Kyle Lowry, and they had no luck. So C.J. McCollum was right there as a veteran guard, the type of guard that could score from the perimeter that they wanted on their roster. So it was a good move for the Pelicans. C.J. possibly wanted to be there. If Dame's making it sound like that, maybe he talked to CJ, maybe he did him a solid and said, hey, what do you think about going to the Pelicans? So we'll see. But Dame clearly put his GM hat on. I am super certain that Dame put that GM hat on and made the call on this decision.
That shit was tough to deal with, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Like I was, when you know something could be coming and you know that it's a possibility, but when it happened,
oh, you knew it was coming, dude. You orchestrated it.
It's different. Like, damn.
Absolutely.
Like, and I kind of been stuck in that space the whole time. Like, I've been watching every game in New Orleans. Like, damn, like, he really ain't coming back. It's over. So, that's kind of where I've been at. I still kind of haven't even really moved past it because I ain't had to play. So,
yeah.
Like, when I ain't had to get on the court and he ain't on the team no more, it's like, it probably take a little bit longer to be like, man, this shit really over, So, the end of it.
You're a good actor, Dan. I'm not saying you don't have love for CJ, but you're a good actor, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Absolutely. And I think, obviously, y'all had a great run. We met y'all in the Western Conference Finals and in other playoff series as well.
And swept them and beat them, whether KD was there or not there. The Warriors have beaten the Portland Trailblazers. They swept them with KD there. They beat them in 6 during the 73-win season. It was a 73-win season. I believe it was the second round. And Steph Curry was in and out the lineup. And they beat the Portland Trailblazers in like 6 games that year. And then they also beat the Portland Trailblazers when KD got hurt against the Rockets. And then they played Portland in the Western Conference Finals, and Draymond did his Magic Johnson impersonation. And Portland had a double-digit lead in every single game of that series and didn't close none of them out. Even in Game 4 that went to OT, they couldn't close that out.
But in looking back on these years, I think it's 9 years y'all played together. Or 8 years. 9 years as teammates, 8 years because of the injuries. But what was your favorite moment in playing with CJ that you can go back to and be like, that was the moment that we'll hold on to forever? Or is it just the relationship overall?
My favorite Damian Lillard moments are when he went off in the bubble and he had those string of games where he was just on super fire. Of course, the game against Denver last season was a legendary performance. They weren't able to get the win, but that was a legendary performance. The shot against the OKC Thunder that split that team apart was a crazy shot as well. That was a crazy moment. Those are my favorite Damian Lillard moments. I'm trying to think of other moments, but those are my favorite Damian Lillard moments. My favorite CJ McCollum moment is probably Game 7 against the Denver Nuggets, the year that Portland went to the Western Conference Finals. Dame struggled in that series. He had a great Game 1, but he struggled the rest of the series, and he had a bad Game 7. And CJ came in and went off Game 7. In a low-scoring game when nobody could really buy a bucket, CJ was just killing it from the mid-range. I believe he had like 37 points in that Game 7, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll say the relationship overall, because there was a lot of moments where I was just like, that I think about it, I'm like, damn. But I think the moment that I think back to is...
CJ and Dame were like Zeke and Joe Dumars, like the bad boy Pistons. They were like that backcourt, except not as good defensively and not as good as distributors. But the scoring and the way that they could explode and get hot and just light up the other team, making shot after shot, very similar. I saw a stat that said no backcourt has had more games where they each scored 20 points. No backcourt has had as many 20-point each games than CJ and Dame. That's the backcourt that has had the most combined at least 40 points, 20-20 split between the two of them. Clay and Steph were a little bit behind them, not by much. Of course, Steph and Clay are going to end up taking that record. But at the time of the split, nobody had more games where they both went for 20 points than Dame and CJ. So offensively, they were a problem for teams.
And just because, like, even when CJ wasn't playing all the way up until last season, when COVID hit, me and CJ sat next to each other on the plane for the first 8 years we played together. We was like sitting right next to each other on the plane. So we used to watch film together. We used to listen to music right there. We used to be watching TV shows, like everything. Like we used to sit right there next to each other. And when we made the first move, when LA left and Batum and West and Rolo and all them, when that team first broke up, CJ came in and he was like, bro, I got you. Like, we ain't about to just be trash. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to take time, but like, I got you. And I remember we like squeaked our way into the playoffs that year and we ended up being like a 5 seed or something like that. A 5 seed in 2016. It was my 4th year. And we played the Clippers in the first round. And in game 4, CP and Blake got hurt. And then we tied the series up 2-2. And then we went to LA Game 5, won that one, was up 3-2, and then we closed them out in Game 6 at home. And I just remember like walking off the court, and I turned around and he was behind me, and he just hugged me, and I was like, bro, we just won a playoff series, bro. The first year, like we gonna be all right. And I just remember we embraced each other, and I was like, bro, we about to get some shit done. You know what I mean? Like I'll never forget that because I was like, all right, it's...
Portland didn't have the best rosters in the league, but one thing that Damian Lillard could have did to enhance his team's play was to take a few less field goal attempts per game and to be more of a facilitator. CJ McCollum is a great offensive player. He could have let CJ take a couple more shots, and he could have focused more on playing a little bit more defense and getting other guys involved. I think that would have helped overall, and it would have stopped teams from just focusing on Dame so much and double teaming Dame because they knew that he was a threat. He would have been a threat to pass the ball, and his teammates would have been a threat to score the ball. But teams just didn't have confidence in Dame or CJ being a distributor. So they knew, hey, we just got to focus in on these two guys. And if we can stop their dribble penetration or if we can get a hand up on their threes, we can probably win the game. Because by the fourth quarter, their legs are going to be a little tired. And then we can just start being physical. And we're the bigger team because they're starting two small guards.
It's real. We really, as long as we can put it together, like, we got a chance. So.
And so in making those moves, I think y'all will have somewhere around $60 million or something like that in cap space.
Like, they really have the flexibility to do something big. There's a lot of things that are going to happen this NBA season. We got to see how the Harden experiment works out in Philly, how Ben Simmons works out in Brooklyn, what's up with Kyrie Irving, Kristaps Porzingis with the Wizards, Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle. There's a lot of guys who are just going to be, like, the future is just uncertain in the NBA. There's so much movement. So Portland having that much cap space, they'll be able to make something shake. Maybe a Bradley Beal.
Like, you're turning 32, as I am turning 32 next month as well. The one thing you don't have on your side is time. And so you don't have, like, oh, man, I can watch this play out for 4 years or 5 and grow with this. Like, y'all have to go for it now. Do you feel confident in the team's plans and what they want to do moving forward that's going to help you get what I ultimately know you want to get to, which is winning the championship in Portland?
Right. No, I think what we've done, bro, is put ourselves in a position we have not been in. I don't think the year when we signed E.T., we signed Mo, we signed Chief. You know, we just signed a bunch of Myers, we signed a bunch of people. And we haven't been in this position, you know, with talent on the roster already since I've been here. You know, you look at what Ant is doing, and then you look at what Nas was doing before he got hurt, and then you add Nurk, like Josh Hart, Joe Ingles. Like, we got some pieces.
A lot of trade pieces and a lot of guys, honestly, who are good role players if you want to keep them on the squad. And if Portland just wants to try to get one big megastar with the cap space, those are a lot of good pieces. And Anthony Simons is a real good player. He's going to be a real good combo guard in the NBA. And he's bigger than CJ, so maybe him and Dame can work together because both of them shoot that three ball very well, and both of them work kind of in the free space of the modern NBA with that pace and with that free flow. So maybe they can both bounce off of each other pretty well. They could do a little bit of what Steph and Clay do, coming off screens and the give and goes and the shot fakes and the cuts that Steph and Clay do. Maybe the range that Simons and Dame have can open up the floor for Portland with that.
To the puzzle now that we just got to use what we have available to add to that. And it's just a matter of us being able to execute that, bro. We in play to get something done, and I trust the fact that we're gonna be able to execute it, you know. And we just gotta see where that lands. That's what.
But anyways, I believe the comments that Dame made on this podcast with Draymond were very revelatory. I believe he did get C.J. McCollum traded. I believe it did sound like they did speak with each other before the trade went down. And now Dame's going to have that pressure on his back. You always have to be careful what you wish for because sometimes you may get exactly what you ask for. So we'll see how Dame does. We'll see what moves Portland makes in the offseason. Like I said, I would not be surprised if they ended up getting a Jaylen Brown or some big-time player like that to play alongside Dame for the upcoming NBA season. But anyways, thanks for watching. Peace.